So last time, man, the hot topic was protein.
Yeah.
And we broke that down, and really what it all comes down to is, from a pure benefit perspective, whey protein for humans, for the human body, whey protein seems by all science, by all measure, to be the best form of protein. But that's not to say that people want plant proteins or collagen proteins. They can still use them, but understand, for muscle repair, recovery,
That was
whey
the best
protein,
option.
yeah, it's just the best option. Plus, it's actually delicious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just really good. Well, today's hot topic, though, we're going to cover another really, it's just exploded in the last couple of years. I remember when you and I were first getting into the industry. If you remember Bill Phillips
Of course.
and the Body for Life,
Yeah.
EAS, that company back in the day, they were kind of the first ones to pioneer everything about creatine. And people didn't know what it was. It was kind of like this special, bodybuilding supplement.
Phosphagen.
Yeah, phosphagen, that's right. Oh my gosh, loaded full of sugar and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
But boy, what an evolution this ingredient has taken. Creatine is just killing it now.
It is all the rage, Jay. And even from a mainstream perspective, you'll find creatine now on the shelves in mass market retailers, drugstores, grocery stores. Forget health and wellness shops and sports nutrition destinations. It's everywhere. Men need it. Women are looking for it. All the other benefits I'm sure we'll talk about. It is the hot ingredient.
Dude, creatine's amazing. You just can't, if you're on Amazon, I don't care, Google, doesn't matter where you go, on TikTok, you're going to find all kinds of different references to creatine, people trying to sell creatine products because it's incredibly hot. So why do you think creatine's hot today compared to years ago?
I don't know the exact answer to that. I just think it's the right ingredient at the right time.
Yeah.
Non-stimulant. It is by far the most clinically studied ingredient out there. One of them, at least by far in the sports nutrition space.
Definitely.
And I think it's just propelled itself in terms of notoriety.
Yeah.
It has all these amazing benefits I'm sure we're going to touch on today.
Absolutely.
But I don't know what sparked it.
But
it's here and here to stay.
Well, here's the thing. I nerd out on this stuff. So I try to dive in. You can't deny that creatine is super popular from a product standpoint. They're trying to come out with creatine everything. Beverages, gummies, powders, whatever, mixes, combine it with other things, HMB combinations, whatever. Where I think it's coming from is that if you go back when we first started in the industry and it got hot, it was for bodybuilding.
Correct.
Because the initial studies, which by the way were done 50 years earlier, and they were doing it on research on endurance and energy and strength and stuff like that. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, some of the research was even done in the military. They were trying to see, and don't quote me on that truly, but I think there were some studies, but it was like 50 years prior to getting popular as a dietary supplement. And it was primarily in the bodybuilding world, because what they identified is that creatine at a cellular level helps to re-energize the cells so that you can push past blocks in your weightlifting, push past blocks in whatever's holding you back from an endurance or energy standpoint. And it's absolutely amazing. In fact,
you feel it.
You definitely do. And you feel it quickly.
Yeah.
In as little as, literally days of using it on a regular basis, you can start feeling the effects. You can feel the increase in strength for sure. You can feel the energy, but the muscle building comes on a little slower because muscle takes time to build. But creatine is an unbelievable tool for muscle building, strength, and endurance. But what I think's special is some recent research started to reveal that creatine can be an effective tool for cognitive health.
Yes.
Now, that was kind of a revolutionary twist for me, because I was like, is this true? Is it really accurate? Does that strike you as kind of odd that we went from bodybuilding and all of a sudden now to cognitive health?
Right. By the way, I was glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I use it.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I'm thinking back, like everyone was back in the day, I'm talking 90s when it hit the scene, mid-90s. Water retention.
Yeah.
Is this a steroid?
Yeah.
Is this safe? Is this dangerous, right? Moms thinking about this for their son or daughter that was an athlete, a collegiate athlete. And look how far it's come. I don't mean to digress, but it's just unbelievable.
Well, if you break it down to what actually creatine does, and I'm not trying to get super nerdy, but I know we're trying to not lose listeners or whatever, but creatine works at a cellular level. right? And every cell in the body does different things, like cells related to brain health and cognitive health and neurons and things of that nature operate differently than, let's say, muscle cells, but their same structure exists, right? They're similar structure. There's something called ATP. You may have heard of it in
The energy
school.
molecule.
And yeah, it's the energy molecule.
Yeah.
Adenosine triphosphate is what it goes by. And creatine helps to recycle that energy cycle at a cellular level. So actually, when you think about it, it makes complete sense that if it's helping to recycle energy at a cellular level, why not energize neurons or brain cells? Totally, completely makes sense when you think about it in a sciencey way.
Very cool.
But what was really interesting is the research on dosing became a thing. So now, back in the day,
The loading phase,
oh, dude, the loading phase, like, well,
which some brands still promote.
yeah, hopefully we're gonna put a nail in that coffin today, to kind of settle this. And I don't know if people are gonna agree that we've settled it. I think there's gonna be varying opinions. But the whole loading versus not loading, how much should a woman use versus a man use? Right. How long should you use it? How safe is it? We're going to cover all of that. So, back in the day, it was like 5 grams, but if you wanted to get a head start, you had to load. So the loading phase was like 20 grams of creatine a day.
2 weeks or something.
Yeah, I think it was like, 5 to 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that.
Yep.
Did you ever load creatine?
I probably tried back in the day. I don't remember. I definitely don't anymore. I don't know anybody that does.
Yeah.
It's more consistent usage.
Yeah. Well, so
without plateau.
I was always the guy that wanted to follow directions. I followed the rules, back in the day. I was kind of a rule follower. I didn't really like to come out of line. So I'd follow the rules. Dude, the gas, the stomach upset for loading.
Oh, I never had any issues with that.
When it was 20 grams, I did. I had some stomach upset, things of that nature. And if you remember back in the day, they were saying that you had to take it with orange juice or tons of sugar. So a lot of the formulas back in the day had 30, 40 grams of sugar per serving.
Right.
I mean, I won't name those brands today, but
right.
They clearly have gone away from that big time. But so the question is, what's the right dosing? So what do you think the right dosing is?
5 grams.
5 grams.
I mean, that's where I'm at. I know people that actually do 3.
Yeah.
And I know people that safely do 10 grams a day.
So here's where the science is at, right? If you want to use creatine properly, the amount of creatine to use on a daily basis is anywhere between 3 to 5 grams.
Okay.
Now, if we're going to unpack the whole loading versus not loading, the reason why people were loading is the whole point of taking creatine, in order for it to work and give you the benefits of increased cellular energy, the whole strength and endurance, and really power and energize the muscle cells and the cells in the body, you have to reach what is called muscle saturation. They're trying to take creatine and force it into the muscle as fast as you can. But you know what was really interesting revealed in the research? Is that regardless of whether you load or don't load,
right,
in about 30 days' time, you will reach full muscle saturation. So it doesn't matter. If you load or unload, once you're fully saturated, you can't get more creatine.
So it's not needed.
It's kind of a waste. So if we're really talking about saving money and being smart and getting the most out of your supplements, 3 to 5 grams a day is all that's needed.
So for those that are taking north of 5, not excessive north of 10, but 5 to 10, safe?
Yeah. Oh, totally safe. In fact, long-term use of creatine, at least what the research is suggesting now, long-term use doesn't seem to be revealing any side effects that should be concerning. Now, granted, I'm sure there's something out there. I mean, too much of a good thing, even drinking too much water, too much air can be bad.
People have been on it for years, but I imagine wouldn't it be wrong to say, after cycling on it for 6 to 9 months, taking a pause, going back?
Well, there's even suggestions that if you want to just take a mental break, right? Like of all the pressure you're putting on yourself to build, and sometimes it's actually good to retreat.
Hit the reset button.
Yeah, hit the reset. Sometimes we also take for granted what it's doing because it becomes your new norm. Like you start using it, you feel the benefit. After about 30 days, you're like, I don't feel it anymore.
With any supplement, right?
You do, with multivitamins. You feel like nothing's changing. Well, the reality is you've reset the new norm, and now this new highly energized, strong side is the norm, and so you don't notice those gains, right? Those differences, but it's still working.
No, 1,000%. Let's talk about formats.
Yeah.
I mean, there's creatine capsules, there's gummies,
yeah,
beverages. I don't even know if it's soluble, but Yeah.
Well, so that's a really, really good question. Powders are by far and away the standard for taking creatine because creatine is most stable in its powder form. Okay, so just to be crystal clear, creatine in a powder form is the most stable. When you start taking it outside of a powder form, you run into some challenges. In fact, there was a bit of controversy recently in the last several months where they revealed that all of these companies trying to make creatine gummies because they wanted to turn this supplement into candy, when they manufactured it, because most people didn't know what would happen, they didn't do the research, they didn't do the proper testing and stability.
Way underclaim. I saw those studies.
Yeah, they found out that it wasn't working. And
Yep.
part of the reason is they were also noticing not only was the creatine not stable enough to handle the hot gelatinous mix that the creatine would be exposed to in a gummy manufacturing, it also initiated conversion to a toxin that comes from this called creatinine or something
Right.
where it converts to. So there's even a potential downside to taking these gummies. And so I will tell you, this is why we're doing this show, is to expose things like this to make sure that people know how to use it correctly. Now, it's not saying that you can't do or use creatine in a gummy form. You just have to make sure that the company has done what is necessary
Agreed.
to
Yeah.
manufacture it correctly and to stabilize the creatine. So they should have done stability studies. They should have done a lot of analysis.
Third-party testing.
100%.
Right. And
Make
there are
sure-
brands out there that are.
Oh, absolutely.
But in the creatine gummy space where it is right now, probably you could count them on,
Maybe
10
one
fingers.
hand. Maybe one hand.
Okay.
Maybe one hand. But there's some things we'll talk about in the bioavailability segment where we can share some insights on what's coming and some opportunities there too.
Cool.
Now drinks also, same thing. Getting creatine to be stable in drinks is also another question, right? Where there's just has to be done correctly. So, creatine, for me, is definitely something that I believe in. I believe that can be an excellent tool. There's always the question too, is it just for men?
Right.
Do you get that question?
Of course.
Yeah. Do you know any women that use creatine?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And by the way, they're using it for gym-related
Yeah.
recovery benefits as well as cognition.
100%.
And there's brands out there, I'll speak about that, actually have women-focused creatine for women, on the label.
Yep.
And it's turning well.
No, without a doubt. And just to be clear, when it's labeled for women, it's not any different than the creatine for men, but it's just exposing the truth that it's not just a men's supplement.
Exactly.
It's perfectly fine for women. It does not cause any male characteristics to develop. It doesn't cause any facial hair. Remember back in the pro-hormone days where
Right.
people were taking all these different, steroid-like compounds to build
Right.
muscle.
Right,
People
right,
were
right.
afraid. Nothing like that. Creatine is safe. In fact, it's really, really effective.
So as far as top brands in the creatine space, and there are many,
Yeah.
and creatine is a commoditized product these
There's
days.
literally hundreds, if not thousands, on the market right now. It's just crazy.
Top of mind, best in class, Transparent Labs Creatine Plus HMB, which I use.
Yeah.
And we spoke about that before.
Yeah.
A brand Momentous uses branded CreaPure. I know you're a fan of that.
Very much so.
Patented. And another company out of Canada called Jack Factory may or may not be on your radar. They are Canada's #1 leading creatine brand. They have a very, very deep portfolio of products, powders, flavored powders, stick pack format. They have gummies, they have capsules, they have HMB as well, which is interesting, but also creatine for women with the addition of collagen and colostrum, which is really cool. And that brand's making its way now into the States. So Jay, how about you? What are your top creatines?
So you know me, man. I'm a purist. I like things simple and straightforward. So I want it pure, unflavored, unsweetened. I'm just really clean. So for me, Biochem Sports and Fitness, my
Sure.
favorite. Naked creatine, monohydrate, pure monohydrate is a good one. And then also NutriCost. I think they do a good job because they keep it simple and at a really good value.
Great value.
You mentioned the versions of creatine that have HMB. We touched on
Yes.
this briefly in the last show, and I'll mention it again. HMB is being added because it helps you retain the muscle that you're using creatine to help you build.
Right.
And so it's a really cool tool. Now, we're going to cover that as a hot topic on one of our shows by itself and really go into a deep dive. But I will tell you, it is worth looking at creatine monohydrate plus HMB. Definitely worth looking at because it is an excellent tool. A little bit more expensive, but definitely worth it because of what it can do, especially if you're on a weight loss program such as GLP-1,
Yeah.
because while you may lose fat, that caloric reduction, that nutrient reduction and things of that nature, you could also lose lean muscle. And lean muscle is so, so important for health and wellness, for energy, for endurance, and just feeling good. And it'll help you retain that muscle while losing the fat. So HMB, important tool. We're going to definitely cover that as a hot topic.
Plus the clinical studies with the combination two
Oh,
together.
dude.
The science is there.
The science is there, and it's irrefuted. It's clear that it works really well.
So good. All right, then, in a nutshell,
Yeah,
rapid fire it. Creatine, buy or no buy?
a total buy, especially if you're active.
Shocker.
Yeah, it's definitely a buy. Scale of 1 to 10, I would give creatine monohydrate by itself a 9, with HMB a 10.
Awesome.